Hello everybody, I am Crystal Clear 101. Welcome back to my channel. We have another Star Wars toy review, and today is the Star Wars The Black Series First Order Stormtrooper. Now this figure was released in late 2015. He is a general release, and his suggested retail is $19.99. Now let's look over the packaging. At the top of the box itself, we have the Star Wars The Black Series logo, as well as some artwork of a First Order Stormtrooper on the bottom right-hand corner of the packaging, as well as the name of the character in the bottom left-hand corner of the packaging. Now, on the reverse side of the packaging, at the very top of the box itself, we have the Star Wars The Black Series logo in the very top left-hand corner, along with the numbers 04 in the top right corner, indicating that he is the fourth figure in the Black Series line. Now, most of the right-hand side of the reverse side of the packaging, we have the same pencil-shaded artwork of the First Order Stormtrooper. However, it does not only state the name of the character right below the Star Wars Black Series logo, it also has the description of this character in 4 different languages. The English portion reads, "Equipped with sleek armor and powerful weapons, the Stormtroopers enforce the will of the First Order." As well as the various copyright information on the very bottom hand portion of the reverse side of the packaging. Also lists StarWars.com/The Force Awakens, as well as StarWars.Hasbro.com for more information, as well as the Disney logo just to the right of that. And that does it for the packaging for the Black Series First Order Stormtrooper. And now, without further ado, let's go ahead and open them up and see what this figure is all about, shall we? Now that we have our First Order Stormtrooper out, let's get a better look at him. First off, let's go ahead and give a 360 degree of the guy. Now, this is the first Episode 7 Black Series 6-inch figure I've decided to review. And I'm really excited about this figure. I have some pros, and I unfortunately do have a few cons about this figure. Now, let me go ahead and give the pros about him. Number one, he's a 6-inch scale, so as you can see, he's not exactly a small figure. He's actually a reasonably good size. So, not only does he look good on a shelf, but he can actually hold a few poses. Which brings me to number two, which is he does have decent articulation. He's actually got some really good articulation, like any good Black Series figure should. Number three, even though he doesn't look like a traditional Stormtrooper, like a classic Stormtrooper, you can tell he is supposed to be a Stormtrooper. And you gotta admit, with this armor, he does look badass. He really does. Number four, he does not come with that many accessories. All he comes with is the First Order version of the E11. I don't know exactly what this model is called, but I know it's basically a modernized E11. And I do not know what the model of this blaster pistol is. If I did, I would tell you what it is. But right now, I'm just calling it the First Order blaster pistol. Now, as far as my cons about this figure, here's my cons about the figure. I'll start with the least of them. Number one is, he is a hard figure to find. Now, if you want to know how I know this, you can PM me or you can ask down in the comments below, but he is a 1 to a case deal. So, in other words, out of a case of these 6-inch black figures, there's only one of him. Now, there's 2 Kylo Rens, 2 Chewbacca's, and 2 of the other new main characters, but there's only one First Order Stormtrooper to a case. Like I said, if you want to know how I know this, either PM me or ask me in the comments below. I'll be more than happy to tell you. Number two. Now, unless this is the new style they're going with, the gloves seem to be missing, at least on my example, some paint apps on the gloves. It's not just for the left hand. It's also on the right hand. His gloves seem to be missing some black paint details. Now, the reason I'm not going to complain too much about that It's the simple fact that all you gotta do is get some flat matte model paint and just paint it, and it'll be fine. It's all good. Now, this is probably the main complaint that I do have. Actually, before I get to that, let me get to the next one. The next worst one, which is I took him out of the package. As you can see, from the waist down, he's already loose. He is loose from the waist down. And I hadn't even fooled with the figure yet. But he was already loose. So, unless, I hope it's just my example here, but that could be a sign of bad quality control. It can be. Now, which brings me to, I guess before my main major point, the figure himself can be a little tricky to stand. He can be a little tricky to stand, especially if you want him to go into some of the more fancy poses with his legs. Unless you're doing some of those more fancy poses, he can stand up, but otherwise, the moment you try, you have to really find his point of balance. At which point, it does become fairly troublesome. Alright, now, the main complaint I have about this figure, I do mean the main complaint, is some of the articulation for right here in his arms. Now, what most of them will do is there will be two separate points of articulation. One right here in the elbow, and a separate one for the forearm itself. Now, I don't know how you make that out, but this is not centered with the forearm. It's actually off slightly. It's closer to this side than the center. It's not just for this arm. It is in this arm as well. So what that means is you cannot have him in a good pose with his E11 up here and his support hand gripping it and have him in a proper aiming pose. And to be honest, that's really about the best pose I can really get him with. You cannot get him to bring it up and actually bring it in like so. Like you see in some of the teaser trailers. To be honest, that's really about the best pose I've been able to get him in with that E11. Now, if I had to give another minor complaint, it's that his blaster pistol, while it can store right there, it does, at least on my example, does pop out fairly easily. It does pop out fairly easily. Now, I said, this has been about the best pose I can get him with that E11. Concerning the teaser trailers, you see him actually bring it like right up here, like they're actually aiming. To me, this little bit of articulation is a little bit of a disappointment, but you gotta admit, this figure does look really cool. And if I had to give another complaint, it's the simple fact that his E11 likes to pop out of his right hand very easily. But, I mean, other than that, I really don't have too many issues about this figure here. But, if you are a fan of Stormtroopers, if you love collecting trooper variants, whether it be clone trooper, stormtrooper, any kind of trooper from Star Wars, then I would suggest that you give this guy a look, because he's actually pretty cool for the most part. Weapons and accessories include a First Order E11 blaster carbine and a First Order blaster pistol, which can be stored on his right hip. An articulation for the Black Series First Order Stormtrooper consists of a ball-jointed head, ball-hinged shoulders, ball-hinged elbows, ball-hinged wrists, ball-jointed waist, ball-hinged hips, double-hinged knees, and a hinged ankle with swivel feet. And what are my thoughts on the Star Wars The Black Series First Order Stormtrooper? If you do not mind the little bit of articulation that he lacks in the elbow right here, if you do not mind that, that I would suggest that you do get this fella a look. I mean, yeah, I mentioned that his hips down here are loose, but I also mentioned that this is in my example. I don't know if this is happening with anyone else's First Order Stormtroopers at this moment, but I know that is happening. That's happened with my example right here. So I guess you could say that's more of a technicality, but overall he is. To be fair, he is a good figure. He does look cool. He has good articulation. As you can see, you can hold him in some. You can have him in some fairly cool poses. So, if you're a fan of Star Wars, you love Stormtroopers, and you want to collect Stormtrooper variants, this is a very nice one to get. So, if you can find him, do get him. He's going to be very hard to find, and not only that, he does look rather sweet. Now, that'll wrap up my review on the Star Wars The Black Series First Order Stormtrooper. Be sure to rate, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.